Hello, Assalamu alaikum everybody. Hope you're all safe, sound, and healthy. And now I am going to talk about the actual racism and discrimination that we do face at the hands of Europeans. And I'm not just talking about them displaying it very openly in the form of the genocide that they've been committing, but this is a sort of a continuation in a way of, when we were discussing about discrimination, racism, and all. And I said that, in England and France, as such, I did not suffer from that, which is true. But you know where I suffered? In my own country. Can you imagine? These white banders, they come to our country and they act all superior, and they actually have the gall and the guts to be racist towards us. Now, the German embassy has had multiple complaints, multiple. I've heard it from so many people that the German embassy is extremely rude. They're very racist. They're very discriminatory. But my experience with the French embassy, when, in the year 2002, I was to go to France for further studies after finishing my master's here. The ambassador actually knew us semi-personally. Why? Because there was some social gathering and all, and he was being very chummy and all with us at that time. And then, yet, he refused to let me in the embassy. He was very rude with me. He refused to even recognize me, despite the fact that I didn't even care whether he recognized me or not. Shove it up where the sun don't shine, as far as I'm concerned, monkey. But anyway, so what my teacher actually was amazing, there was a teacher of ours who was very famous in the French community, and she's very famous for also being very blunt and putting people in their place, especially the white people. So whenever he tried to act very cheeky or smart with her or fresh with her, she would really give him an astounding number of smacks, verbally speaking. So, but obviously that time, I had still had the upbringing of, if you hear this in the background, this is the inverter, the solar system that's working, because right now it's peak hours are beginning and the fans are on and everything. I actually am here to make myself some tea because today I'm not fasting. But anyway, the problem here is that I'm trying to discuss is the sheer hypocrisy, the two-faced, half-assed cheek that these people show in our own country, and again, who allows them to show that, right? Who allows them to show that in our own country? So when he was rude to me and all, and then he behaved with me very, very extremely rudely, not once but twice, and then because he was wasting my time as well, so at the end I got so peed off, I was like, you know what? Give me back my passport. I don't want to go. You just give me my passport and you just see what I do to your reputation and what I do to the reputation of France. And after that, he just cowered into his room and he would not come out of his room to even talk. He was so shit scared because he was about to be transferred anyway to another godforsaken country, because any country is godforsaken if he's there. And, then the Pakistani staff, who was a very elderly man, he apologized to me profusely, and he said, no, we will, we will expedite your process. And I'm like, I don't want to go. I'm like, I've got a glimpse of what kind of people you are, and you know what? I'm not impressed, and I'm going to make sure in the future that I will never encourage anybody to go to France, and I will discourage everybody possible from even going to the Alliance. Forget France. And, then they were like, oh, no, let's give you some tea. Let's do this. Let's do that. No. And, I was thinking in my mind, I'm like, yeah, you're a Pakistani, and you're apologizing on behalf of that white monkey, Well, I'm sorry, but, the racist is as racist does, okay? You're going to be racist with me. I'm going to be equally racist with you. Remember, I'm an eye for an eye kind of a person. The other French monkey who was racist was Fouquet. Yeah. Or Foucault, as people would like to call him, or he was the then director of Alliance Française, if I remember well. And I hope I'm not mixing the names though. I hope it wasn't the ambassador who was Fouquet. I can't be bothered to remember their names. I mean, this is how little they mean to me in life, that I can't even be bothered to remember their names, and I can't even be bothered to remember them. But anyway, because I suddenly did remember them, I thought maybe I should, set the record straight and talk about, how racism and discrimination does work when it does. The director of Alliance Francaise was, an a-hole, and I'm being very kind here. He was also very rude. He was very racist. And then, I'd had enough. I'd had enough of him. So I just gave him a big shut up call. And then he was suddenly, back in his place. Then he suddenly became very kind, very gentle, I was thinking that, yeah, you are no different from our desis. Just like our desis, whenever you're polite to them, when you're nice to them, then they suddenly think that they can be rude to you. It's amazing. It's amazing how in Pakistan and in India maybe, but I mean, I know about Pakistan, that whenever you're very polite with somebody, that is the time when they decide that it's okay for them to become very rude with you. And then you have to give them a shut-up call, and you have to bring all their family in, in all the cuss words that you can. And then suddenly they're like, oh, no, oh, sorry, oh, no, oh, sorry, I'm so, what the hell, man? Why can't you let people just respect you? Why can't you let people talk to you respectfully? And why can't you answer them respectfully in turn? You know why? It's because of the inferiority complex and the amount of lack of actual education in our people. That slave mentality is still there, that they do not respect that person who treats them as their equals. Have you ever heard of such a thing? Yeah, well, you can actually find that in display in Pakistan, where the slave mentality is so ripe that if you actually treat them as your equals, they think you're a fool. They literally say to your face, why do you think Imran Khan suffered for 20 years? People thought he was a fool. Why do you think the people thought he was a fool? He treated everybody as his equals. Now when those people are being beaten up real bad in every way possible, now they suddenly remember how Imran Khan treated everybody as his equal, how he was such a gentleman, how he raised the standards in Pakistan. Yeah, well, you know what? You're 23 bloody years too late in everything else, as in this. That's all I have to say. But anyway, so coming back to racism. Yeah, so, and then, here's another weird thing about French people. I'm sorry to say, but I actually do not like the French people in general. But I do have a few very, very, very nice French friends who are extremely sweet. But that is why I've never, generalized them. But yeah, generally, yes, I'm sorry to say, French people, no go, right? Because, again, there was this French lady. Well, she was probably my age or even a bit younger than I was. And because she had come to Shoifat. Now, remember, this is another way of discrimination where your own people discriminate against you, although technically speaking, Shoifat is not our own people. The head of Shoifat at that time, the principal, was Egyptian, I think. Anyway, the fact that he brought in a French national, she was actually qualified in fine arts. But because she was French, they decided she was qualified to teach French, right? Yeah, why don't they decide that when they have to choose us, by the way? When they have to choose us native English speakers, why don't they just understand that we are native English speakers, so we are automatically qualified to teach English? Or those of us who speak Urdu, because Urdu is our language, we're Pakistanis, why are we not automatically qualified to teach Urdu? I would like to know. Okay? So, but because she was French, she was automatically qualified to teach French. Now, she brought in her husband to teach as well in the primary section, while we were teaching secondary, O-levels, A-levels, the stuff, right? And imagine that she was always trying to blame me for mistakes. She wouldn't dare do that because the other two staff members were French, but because I was Pakistani, and my other ex-senior, my university senior, who was also my colleague and a very good friend, both of us, he and I, because we were the only two Pakistanis at that time, in that department. So we had the most load, by the way. We had the most load, and I was the least paid. His pay was better than mine, but we both had the most load. And compared to those French ladies, our pay was low. Okay? And yet, who was bringing in results? I was. It was so much so that even in the meetings, it was mentioned of how I raised the percentage within 4 months of my arrival, from 0 to 13, from 8 to 15, basically 100% raise in percentage in all the classes where there was not a single student who failed. Okay? I gave 100% results. And yet, my pay was low. In fact, I was the lowest paid teacher in the whole of Shuifat. You know that? Yeah. Why? Because despite my experience in teaching, which I started at a very young age as a part-timer, despite my teaching experience, despite my qualifications, despite my background, probably just the fact that they could exploit me was good enough for them. But obviously they couldn't exploit the white man. Yeah, they couldn't do that to them. The white man is certainly qualified to teach French. And you know what? The funny thing was that her husband was always making mistakes, always making basic mistakes, and she was always covering it up for him. But she was always trying to misdirect by suddenly pointing the finger at me and trying to pick out mistakes that I made, which she never caught, by the way, because I never made mistakes. And when I did, I rectified it immediately, because you know when you've made a mistake, right? But I never did. So here it is that her husband was constantly making mistakes, and he was in the primary section, and she was always busy covering his mistakes. And here in the secondary section, just trying to pretend that she was doing her job and that she was so good and so self-righteous, she was looking for mistakes in other staff members. She wouldn't dare do it, as I said, to the other two who were French, one and both her seniors, age-wise, and also, despite the fact that the other French was actually my friend, a very, very good friend of mine, because she had married a Pakistani. She spoke Urdu, she spoke Punjabi, Edwige would have a problem with us when we would speak in English or Urdu. And then we told her that, hello, in Shuifat, you're not even supposed to speak French, thank you very much. You're supposed to speak in English. So actually, you're the one who's not following the rules. You want to talk to us in English, not in French. So there you have it. In our own country, we are being discriminated against by white, ignorant racists. Imagine. So yeah, I mean, this is what I have noticed. This is the reason why I've always had a problem with our country, is that, other countries are always racist towards foreigners. But I sometimes think that this is very unfortunate, very, very unfortunate of us, that as Pakistanis, we are never racist towards foreigners. I call it unfortunate because that racism gets directed towards us by said foreigners. If you don't want to be racist towards foreigners, at least don't allow them to be racist towards us in our own soil, on our own land. Thank you very much. Yeah. When it comes to England, as I said, I've had a very, 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 very long relationship with England. My parents, my father lived there. Both my parents' families still live there. They've lived there for generations. My father rejected their passport. I didn't stay there, despite the fact that actually I was planning on staying there because I spent my childhood there. But I have not had racism directed towards me. I've had bad behavior and I've had bad manners, because you see, in England, the biggest problem in England is that the labor is usually more qualified than the management. Especially when you go to retail and when you go to, food industry, and when you go to all these customer service industry, you will notice that because, most of the employees are part-timers, they're students who have come from abroad, they're all doing their masters, their PhDs and stuff like that. So the labor is always more qualified than the management. And sometimes this can cause a rift when you have some weird oddball in the management who is having this heavy inferiority complex, and he decides to, vent it on his employees just because, again, as I said, he has this inferiority complex. But this is very rare. This is rare. But I have noticed that in the recent decade, at least, all these Pakistanis who have had experience as employees in these retail sectors or restaurants and stuff, I think they've not actually had a very healthy environment. The way they've seen their management, immediate management, as in their immediate superiors, how they behave, because those immediate superiors, remember, are also not always white. They belong to, again, different people from different backgrounds, different ethnic backgrounds, and they all bring their own kind of, weird, unprofessional attitudes with them. And unlike, a few rare people like me who know how to smack back, and I actually literally slap them with the law, because I am actually, I'm quite well versed in the British law because I have actually studied British law. Thank you very much. So, I know how to give them a shut-up call, and I know how to get the HR involved, and I know how to make heads roll. I just have to teach them that lesson once, and everybody's okay for the rest of the term. In fact, for the rest of the whole time. So, the other people, I think, do not get, that they don't really have that sense or the courage to do something about it, But anyway, in any case, what I've seen is that in Pakistan, basically, we've always had a very professional atmosphere, especially in the 90s and in the early to mid 2000s. Well, after that, I don't know because I wasn't here. But when I came back, again, when I taught at university, when I came back, again, very good professional environment, met very nice people. Some of them were my teachers already, and now they were my colleagues. So, no problems there. But I've realized when I went to other few, sectors, especially those dealing with online, for example, online content writing or online magazines or online, anything, I noticed that over there, the environment that was being produced, it was still a lot. It wasn't that bad, I guess, but I noticed it. Maybe it's because I'm the kind to notice. I don't know. But I noticed that, even in certain universities, yes. I noticed that people who had suddenly come back from abroad, like me, their professional attitude was really bad. They were very rude. Not to mention many of them, as usual, which is very normal even for people in Pakistan, is that they didn't know jack shit. So what little they did know, they would try to impose on others as if they knew everything, those kind of people. And you wouldn't expect it from those who have come back from abroad after studying, but that's how I saw it. That's how it was, that people who had come from abroad, even my own cousins, I guess then I understood why people said that I didn't look as if I'd come from abroad, and I never understood what they were trying to say. I think maybe they're talking about the attitude, because people who have come from abroad after just a few years of study, they're very rude, they're very ill-mannered, and they're very aggressive. But again, as I said, it's probably because they have had to face a lot, in those countries. They've had to face a lot where they were forced to push back. I know that because I was born abroad, I've spent my childhood abroad, I've lived in multiple countries. So, to me, that's why I never got affected. In fact, I feel that in Pakistan, as in any other country, I feel that there is a lot of pushback that you have to give. There's a lot of people, trying to shove you up, or shove you through, or shove you back, and you have to push back. So in Pakistan, I've had to do it the most. I have had to do it a lot in England, yes, as I said. I have slapped a few of them, through HR. And that is again, because you see the ignorance, of having people above you who are lesser qualified than you. There are those like me who I did see that they had come from abroad, which is actually the vast majority of people. Well, now I can't say it, but in my time, the vast majority of people who came back from abroad, our basic problem was in Pakistan, people were so scared of us, of our, exposure, our experience, our qualifications, that we have something new to offer, that, we have something new to bring to the table, and that, they would always think that, oh, their jobs are in danger. And so they would always push us out. Okay, the seniors, the local seniors. So that is one thing. Plus, another thing that really rankled with us and still does is the fact that people who don't know anything, they get the job, because of connections, because of bribery, because of relationships, whatever, they get the job. And, those of us who are actually working our ass off, who have spent so much money on our education, who've gone abroad, who've struggled there, come back here, we've got nothing. Again, it's because of the same reason, as I said, the inferiority complex, the danger to self. So their survival instincts kick in and they do not want us. So there is that. But everybody wants to go abroad and everybody wants their kids to study abroad. But again, their kids, whatever it is that they face there, they bring that baggage with them here, And so a new cycle of that weird, unprofessional, aggressive, ill-mannered, weird sort of atmosphere that is now being created in so many various sectors over here is by all those people who came back from abroad after facing, racism or discrimination or just plain ignorance or whatever it is, and they've had to push back. And so they're still in that mode, you can say. So now they're basically doing what was done to them, right? But over here, as I said, over here also people, although mostly people just prefer to stay in peace when they're at work, but there are people who will obviously, again, slap you in the face because this is our own country. It's our own country and you're not allowed to deal with us the way you've been dealt with by someone in their own country, maybe. You get what I'm saying. So yeah, this amount of discrimination and racism that hits you in the face when you're abroad, I am, as I said, actually, I never faced it, but that does not mean it doesn't exist. My father faced it in his time. That's why he hated England. And that's why, despite the fact that they tried to give him so many, how do we say it? They literally, offered him the passport, British passport, and he just rejected it and he left. And he's like, I'm sorry, I just don't even want to live here. So obviously that remains in history. And that is why he has never liked living abroad. And that is why actually he has always thought that no one should live in our own country. But my experience, which I then tell him, is that this may be your country where you feel at ease, but to me, this is not my country. If this was my country, why am I being discriminated against by my own people? You said that you got discriminated against or you faced racism. But then, okay, tell me, why am I facing it in my own country? Why am I was never treated as a second-class citizen in England. As I said, in England, I could slap people back. I could push back. I could be equally aggressive. I was not an illegal citizen over there. I was legally staying there. I was a student, and then later on, I did my job there. I even taught in private and public schools. Hello, I could push back. But in Pakistan is where I'm not allowed to push back. This is my argument here, that in Pakistan, I am not allowed to push back. In Pakistan, I have to listen to shit. I have to face shit, right? In my own country, so I'm sorry. In my own country, I'm being treated as a second-class citizen as far as I'm concerned. So, what are you talking about being second-class? I would rather be a second-class citizen in a country where I know I'm not part of them. You would expect that. And yet, as I said, I was never treated as a second class citizen, either in France or in England. Okay. Yeah. I mean, despite the fact that I had those French maniacs, in Pakistan. But in France, thankfully, I didn't come across those French maniacs. I came across other maniacs, Desi maniacs in France, but not French, right? But still, my overall experience in France was not good. But again, it was not because of the French people. Okay, you could include the French government, their prefecture, the way they did the paperwork. It was just as bad as Pakistan, and I was like, oh my God, I'm living in hell, because it's like it was literally as if I was dealing with Pakistani government clerks, seriously. You find out that, as I said, government servants are the same all over the world. People have the same complaints all over the world. So again, that has nothing to do with racism or discrimination. But I mean, here you go. So yeah, talk about racism and discrimination. I have faced them in my own country, thank you very much, by those white maniacs. Our own people have faced countless discriminations and racism by foreigners in our own country. Now, foreigners would, love to I would just love for you to go and try that in India and see how you get whacked. India doesn't leave those people alone who are in their own countries trying to make life difficult for their own people. But here in Pakistan, forget about abroad. Abroad, you can just think that you have no one abroad. Your embassy is pretty much useless. So you're all on your own when you're abroad, until obviously when Imran Khan came and he started tightening things up. But now again, obviously everything's back to shit. But in our own country, why are we on our own? We are in our own country. Well, obviously, yeah, that doesn't mean that I'm not, that I'm too scared to, give a few smacks to the foreigners here who try to treat us bad. No. But again, as I said, essentially, the way we are brought up, the way we are, we are always made to think that, be hospitable, be this. Why are we being hospitable towards those people who, in our own country, in our own land, are behaving like that towards us? They're treating us as if we're their slaves. The French people, I would like to remind you of your humble origins. You were nothing more than looters and plunderers, and you still are nothing more than that, sorry to say. You haven't changed much, have you? Look at Africa ganging up to protect themselves against you. You're still stealing. You're still looting, you're still plundering, you're still treating other people as slaves. But again, let me remind you of your own humble origins. What were you? You were nothing. You were slaves too, actually, if anything. So think about that. Same goes for England. England did display racism in this way that, if I remember well, when I was in England, there was this new wave of, shadow banning, something similar to shadow banning. And what they were doing was basically, as soon as they would see that you, in their forms, people, they act as if the Americans and British, they act as if, in Egypt there should not be a religion space in the form. You shouldn't find people's religion in other Muslim. Well, hello, in your own country, not only do you make us write down our religion, you also actually make us write down our ethnicity. Thank you very much. Literally. And they've literally defined every single ethnicity separately. Bangladeshi British, Pakistani British, Indian British. What the hell? Why do we have to give our ethnicity and our religion when applying for jobs? And that even not just, part-time. Yeah, part-time jobs in retail as well. So who the hell are you to be so hypocritical and tell other countries that they should not put religion on their forms. You bloody put religion as well as ethnicity in your forms. Like, what the hell are you thinking when you're doing that? And how come nobody has even, asked you not to do that? So it's okay for you to probe into people's ethnicity, but in Egypt and in other countries, they should not ask people's religion. Why? And so in England, as soon as they would see your religion and your ethnicity, the main thing being your religion, if it was Islam, they would shadow ban you. They would, create some sort of an obscure excuse, and they will not hire you. Yeah, so that is racism, and that is discrimination, and that is on a national level, So you will have that. You will have racism, you will have discrimination on a national level, where when you're going for jobs and you have to fill the form, and on the form, you have to fill your religion and your ethnicity. And based on that, you will get rejected. If that ain't racism, pray tell what is. Well, this is me signing out, giving you food for thought, countering your hypocrisy, you people of the West. Once again, exposing your ignorance as you think you know everything, but you know jack shit. Well, this is me signing out. Khuda Hafiz.